It's very nice to see everybody today. Would the truth be, I can't see any of you. I'm just talking to you, but it's nice to be with you today. You see I'm in a lot better of a mood than I was last week? Well, wonder why that is.
I wish I knew.
Exactly. It is the rewatch of Batman Begins. It's the Nolan trilogy. And I knew this movie was good. But after watching what we watched last week, when it's like someone just took a bucket of farts in a jar and put it under your nose, and then you just get like your favorite food, and you're never full. You just keep eating because you want more and more and more. That's what this movie is. Spitting knowledge today. Am I? No. But look, here's what you need to do. You got to subscribe. You got to show a little class. Just an ounce. That's all we're asking for here. And still, my favorite comment I've ever gotten: how dare you tell people to show some class? Go fuck yourself, is what the guy said to me. And what I say to him: show a little class, will you? All right, subscribe, hit the notification button. It is the big thing rewatch of Batman Begins. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? I forgot to tell you, if you're not at the Patreon yet, you like these rewatches? People like these rewatches. We're doing one exclusive one a month on the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/SEN live. Thing. Everybody was waiting for me to watch the Thing. Well, you want to see a full discussion with myself and Darina, you can go on over there now. It's up now. The review of that will be up on the channel also. But the Patreon has so much great stuff. We're going to do one live episode, whether it's Sith Council or Big Thing. It'll be a bonus episode. SEN Live is 3 episodes a month, which is great. There's a lot of great stuff over there. And don't forget, you like these shows? People tell me that they were listening to the Batman and Robin. They're like, well, why didn't I get this on podcast? Why didn't I get this on podcast?
I wish I knew.
I wish I knew. And now you got it on podcast. All you got to do is go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. And that's how you do it. Go and get us on Apple Podcasts. We don't do donations here. We don't do StreamYard or Super Chat or any of that. We just rely on you guys listening to this show. All right. No more of this. It's very nice to see everybody. By the way, rest in peace to Pi Oh My in the background there. Just recently passed away. I love Pi Oh My. I didn't get a chance to mention that. All right, let's do this, everybody. Let's bring in my cohorts, Winston A, Marshall, Coy Jandreau. How you like that fan art on the way in? I got to give that guy
that was fire. That was fire.
I got to give
absolute fire.
We'll find the guys. Look at that. It's really good.
Feel the love.
It's really good. I like that. What I like about it is that we get to debut this fan art poster next to a real piece of art. What? Look, I'll tell you what about this movie. I always liked it. I always liked it a lot. This movie is incredible. How good
it's phenomenal. It's you're getting peak Christopher Nolan when he couldn't miss. And you're talking about these. I mean, Dark Knight Rises, we'll have a conversation, but you had these. You had Inception. He had just come off The Prestige, I believe. Like, homie did not.
Yeah.
Huh?
Prestige might have been after, but either way, it's in the same range. It's in the same range.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good.
So, and if you forget, he did Memento and Insomnia and all those and his movies that he had done. And the fact that we mentioned it briefly on Batman and Robin, but had it not been for Batman and Robin, you don't get this movie because that movie just basically sunk it. It is such night and day when you look at that movie after watching it last week, Coy, to this. The lore, I mean, like everything about it is just...
It's the other side of Bat fandom. Like, we often talk about how there's people that want the camp and there's people that want the Dark Knight, and this is the other side. We went further and further from the glory that is the darkness of Batman with each film. Like, even the second Tim Burton got campier because it was more Burton than goth. Like, goth... Yes. Burton's got his own goth, but it's a little campier than, the traditional. So as they progressed, they got further and further from what I consider the source material. Everyone's got their own take. But to me, this was, hey, this so didn't work. We're going to scrap 100% of the tone. We're going to go as grounded as possible. Everything in this film gets its own origin. I love that we get the cowl origins. I love that we get the Batmobile with a plausible origin. I love that Bruce Wayne's coat has an arc. There's so much more integrity to the writing of the script than there is in anything else. And without this, we don't get the MCU. Like, you know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing.
No, you're right, man. That's the thing is, I don't know how much, and I'll let you guys speak on this because you guys are the comic book experts, but I don't know how much actually plays into the real lore of the comic books, how much they, took a liberty with and all that. But like they said they were going to take a more grounded approach to this, and they certainly do. And what I like about it is the evolution. This is the first movie after watching all the ones that we just watched beforehand. This is the first one that really focuses in on Bruce and Batman. This is about Batman. All the other movies are about the villain, with Batman and Bruce Wayne happen to be in there, and they have a purpose. But for the most part, it's about the villains, right? This is about Bruce Wayne, Batman, his demons, everything about it. And you see him as this kid that wants revenge. He is just devastated by the loss of his parents. He's had this fear in him before his parents died, with the stuff with the bats. He feels guilty because his parents died, the way that they set that up with the theater. And then ultimately who he becomes and why he goes out. And I love the scene where he gives the jacket to the homeless guy, and then he just runs to the boat and leaves. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to answer some of those questions, it's pretty spot on with liberties taken. So, like, for example, the big thing is that they were typically at a movie seeing
they're seeing Zorro versus the Opera.
They're seeing Zorro versus the Opera. They're not leaving because Bruce is scared. Typically, they're leaving after, like, it was a grand old time. Bruce was happy, the family was together, and bam, dead. So I loved, for narrative purposes, making it that because Bruce was afraid, the central theme of this entire film being about fear and overcoming your fears. Perfect for a Scarecrow movie, obviously,
and great for a paternal Thomas Wayne.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But then you get exactly that. Bruce is blaming himself for his parents' death, and you can't necessarily justify that in any other telling of his origin because it was really just happenstance. You set this up where if Bruce had not been so damn scared of bats, his parents would be alive in his mind. Like, he has to exercise that demon.
Right. And
I love.
Go ahead. Quick.
I was just going to say, I love that, like you mentioned, the Scarecrow. This first one's about fear, and all of the villains are about fear. Like, Falcone is running the town on intimidation. Ra's al Ghul uses theatricality and mysticism in the shadows to be his fear agent, and then Scarecrow is about overt fear. So not only does this movie have as many villains as Batman and Robin, and somehow makes that work, it also has more time with Bruce Wayne and makes it work, but also all the villains tie together in a logical, central way. Like, there's a lot going on, but at no point does it feel bloated, and it doesn't ever feel too slow or too fast. I think one of the best things about this movie is the pacing, because once this movie goes, it never lets go of you. Right. But at no point, because of the nonlinear origin, I love the nonlinear storytelling with the origin. Because of that, you never feel like you're bogged down in any one timeline of the film.
No, you don't. You don't. And it feels, and it's set up really well. They set up all the characters. It feels like a really long, great episode of television also. And what I mean, and that's, and I don't mean as far as the look, it's obviously a beautiful film, but I mean, as far as the way that television today, the way that it can be crafted, you, as Coy said, you could have a lot of villains inside of it, but it doesn't overtake it. It doesn't focus too much on one particular villain. And so I really enjoyed that. A few of the things I always, I think it's the third one, people always talk about some of the holes where how Bruce is able to get in when the whole thing's locked down and all that. There's stuff in here too, guys. There's stuff in here too. Like, for example, Gotham might be the stupidest people in the world because no one's seen Bruce Wayne for 7 years or 8 years, comes back, and then Batman shows up and no one puts it together. It's like, and then he's got this expensive tank and no one puts it together.
It's the same thing with the whole Superman Clark Kent like glasses thing. Like,
you really gotta let some things.
Like, you gotta let some stuff go. It's like when everybody's like, where does he get all those fabulous toys? He must be rich. Why is your first thought not he's rich? Or like, what was my favorite Rush Hour line from Rush Hour 2? Follow the rich white man. Follow the rich white man. Yes, follow the rich white man.
I'm telling you, man. Like, yeah, you let it go. And by the way, I also push back against people, and Winston, you might be one of these people who say that that Bale is not a great Bruce Wayne. Did you say that?
Oh no,
he's such a good Bruce Wayne.
No. That's not. It's not. No, I just said that as far as like straight look, Clooney's got it down.
Okay, look wise. Okay, that's fine. As far as,
but he's the only one to play three characters. He plays Bruce Wayne, he plays the Bruce Wayne, and he plays Batman. I think of all the Batman, he's the only one that gets all three characters right.
I would argue that I think he's the best Bruce Wayne as far as how how he's actually put together and the stuff that he's going through. He's the one, because even Michael Keaton, who you love him because of just his pure charisma, but like Bale has so much because it's the writing. The writing is better with this Batman or this Bruce Wayne because the stuff that's set up and how he's trained. Because there's always that question: how does he know how to kick ass so well? Well, this tells you he was already tough. He was already tough, and he could fight. And because his anger was taking him through. And Liam Neeson, by the way, very underrated as a villain in general. And we forget because when you rewatch this now, this is Liam Neeson pre-Taken. All right. And I just watched this fart box of a movie, Blacklight.
I'm sorry.
It's bad. It's bad. But it's Liam Neeson, so he's always he's like 70 years old and he's still kicking people in the face. but when you watch them fight on the train at the end, you're like, oh wow, watch Bale fighting now Liam Neeson, who is just revitalized himself. But this is a great role, I think, and very underrated. Ra's al Ghul, the way that it's set up, and it's that Thanos thing too. He truly believes in his mission. He's not just one of these evil mustache twirling villains. He believes that Gotham is so far gone in crime and corruption that there's no way around it. And he wanted Bruce on his side. Instead, Bruce turned to the other side. And it's you understand why he's doing what he's doing, even though you don't agree with him.
Yeah, and it's for anybody that's familiar with the League of Shadows, and what Raish's whole unit is all about is like that's it. They go around the world and they find the most corrupt empires, cities, whatever, and they just devastate them because they feel like you need a big purge like that. For centuries, like they're literally being behind all of that. So even to get into a little bit of that history, it's very clear that Nolan is a fan and did his homework and fully understood the assignment from top to bottom, as far as making Gotham a character, making sure all the villains are flushed out. Like the one thing that I guess we really can't get away from, once again, Bruce is out here just telling the woman he loves that he's Batman. But I guess
I like how he did it though in this one. But I like how he did it in this one.
It was smooth.
That goes to my other side here. I'm split on this, Coy, and I want to see where you lie on this, right? Katie Holmes is a wonderful person. She was terribly miscast in this role. There are times when she's talking to Christian Bale, and I'm just like, you just see two different types of actors, right? And she was great in Dawson's Creek and all that type of stuff that she was on, and she's likable, but you can't compare when it comes to skill. However, I will say this, and as much as I like Maggie Gyllenhaal, I always get thrown off when they throw somebody else into the role in the next movie. I don't know why she was. I don't know what happened. Maybe they thought she wasn't good. Maybe she wasn't available. Maybe Tom Cruise said, "No, you're not allowed out of the house this week."
Oh my God,
that was a weird relationship. But you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. What did you think about Katie Holmes overall in this?
So on rewatch, I liked her better than I used to. It used to bother me more. I think I've kind of like digested and accepted it. It is very tricky because there's a certain ness to Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Liam Neeson, Christian Bale. There's a certain, seasoned theatricality. There's something very like grandiose about their acting. And that doesn't just, besmirch Katie Holmes's. But Katie Holmes' acting does feel like it's in a different movie throughout the film. Right. And it's funny because when they were advertising this movie, it was when superhero movies were not regarded well. So it was actually like a Nickelback song over a rom-com.
Wow.
Like one of the trailers for this is literally a rom-com, and they made it a Katie Holmes film. They advertised it as Katie Holmes loves Batman.
Yes, they did.
And so I get why they cast her because they're appealing to that market at the time. I think the reason Maggie Gyllenhaal replaced her is because they realized they wanted everyone to be at that different style of acting, and so they just made it like Maggie Gyllenhaal is that style of acting. So they were just like, okay, we didn't have this, now we do. It is weird, but I think that's why they did it. And I honestly prefer Maggie Gyllenhaal in the role.
So here's a quote: Katie Holmes didn't come back for The Dark Knight because of her packed schedule. According to Business Insider, Nolan really wanted her to come back and was ultimately quite upset when it didn't work out.
I mean, I personally, I get what you're saying, Coy, as far as the style that they deliver. I personally thought that between the two of them, that Katie was a little better, between her and Maggie. So I that's the one for me. The one thing about The Dark Knight when we get to that next week, that throws me off. I guess
I buy Maggie more as a DA is my thing. Like I buy Katie Holmes as a love interest, but I buy Maggie as a DA.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding,
and that's more important than the love interest part.
I agree. And had Maggie Gyllenhaal been cast first it would have been less jarring for me because I think she's great in the role in the second one. But there is a line when she's with Joffrey and she's running around with Joffrey, and she says, "I love the yeah, dude, that's Joffrey.
That's little Joffrey, dude.
Dude, the little kid that's scared she's trying to protect with the gun, that's Joffrey?
Yeah, the one he gives the thing, that's Joffrey.
That's why his face looks just like Joffrey's.
I didn't catch it. I'm just like, yo, who this little boy? I mean, he out here, he plays scared really well.
Yeah. I don't know if we were just talking about, because we just interviewed Freddie Stroma for Peacemaker, and I had told Winston that he's British, and we were joking around like, it seems like, all the Brits getting the great roles. And it looks like I think that Joffrey is British, because if he is, young kid nailing that accent, and some Bale as well. So
Bale's Welsh. He's got this awesome jolliness to him.
Well,
Christian Bale's got this Christian
does.
Bale's the opposite of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, well, he's not from Kansas City. But anyway, I think Bale does such a great job overall. I can get over sometimes the voice, when he was talking to, there was one line where he's talking to Gary Oldman, which we should get into after, and nothing against Pat Hingle. Pat Hingle was a wonderful Commissioner Gordon, but by the end of, that last movie, he's like, come on, give me a kiss, to Poison Ivy, and to this, no one gives Gordon credit. Without Gordon, Batman loses. He blows up the bridge, and he doesn't do it. And just one was, oops, sorry. Like, that's okay. That's all right. No goofy lines like, oh, that's going to hurt in the morning. Like, none of that stuff is more. He blows up the bridge. He gets excited. He's like, yes. And like,
the comedy in this is so strong. Like, that's one of the strengths of the film is Christian Bale's, the double life night jokes. There's little subtle jokes that are in universe canon that Bruce Wayne would have somewhat of a sense of humor. Batman wouldn't. And you react to Batman for humor, not at Batman, like about Batman. Like, there's so much great comedy here.
Yeah. Well, I like you even said, bringing up Gordon like that in the first place, I think where for me the show Gotham would missed a little bit is the fact that, like, I love me some Gordon, but not enough that, like, I want to just focus on that and not Batman. But there is a symbiotic relationship with Commissioner Gordon where he's not just all right, here's your mission today, Batman, where he's like actually a cop trying to get all of the corruption out of the GCPD.
His hands are tied.
That partner. Exactly.
Yes, his hands are tied. He doesn't have it. He wants to. He says as much. He's like, what can I do? Everywhere.
Scene where he won't take money, but he won't rat out dirty cops. That is Gordon. Yeah. I love that scene.
He's like, I can't. He's like, well, what can I do? No matter what I try. He's like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't tell anybody. Nobody's going to listen. And then when Batman comes in and puts a stapler to his head, and he's like, what do you think? He's like, and then later on, he says to him, I think you're trying to help. And he knows, he understands, like, it's that whole relationship that we always knew why Gordon and Batman had this strong relationship. You saw the formation of that, and you see the formation of it. And the reason why he likes him so much is because of how kind he is to him after his parents die, and he gives him the jacket, and he takes care of him, and it's like he's like this pseudo father figure kind of. Although Alfred really
I was going to say kind of like an uncle, like that. That's the one thing that Gordon always read to me is like an uncle to Bruce in that regard. And obviously he doesn't know at first that Bruce is Batman, but eventually when he connects the dots in different mediums, you can kind of see it where he's like, I get it. Like this little boy that I took care of, like, I mean, is a grown ass man and he's doing what needs to be done. So
I think this movie does the father figure thing really well, because you've got a father figure in Liam Neeson when he's an adolescent, when he's full of rage. You've got the father figure in Alfred, but he's disappointed in him because he doesn't like the way he's turning out. So he's got to prove himself to Alfred. And the father figure in Alfred is proving about the worth of family, about all the things about Wayne Manor, all the things about the Wayne name, all the integrity of being Wayne. You've also got the father figure in Commissioner Gordon in that more uncle sense, but in that, like, this is right and wrong. These are all the things to do. So you've got all of these great dynamics with a very young, impressionable Bruce Wayne at different stages in his adolescence and in different levels of power and Batmanhood.
Actually, Coy, it's Sergeant Gordon. But
excuse me, he's not yet commissioner.
Thank you for playing. Loga's still alive.
That's right. Why? Hey,
when we face each other in the SCHMOEDOWN, Winston.
Coy, why did you think that he was the commissioner already?
I wish I knew.
Also, we haven't talked about, I think, the MVP of this movie that doesn't get enough credit. Morgan Freeman.
I was just gonna say, well, that was my next question. My next question is, so Lucius Fox, character in the comics or made up?
Character in the comics. He's a tech Alfred.
Okay, because I am not. That's why I have these two gentlemen here. I don't know enough about it. All I know is Morgan Freeman fits this role tremendously, and you knew from the beginning when Rutger Hauer. Oh man, when Rutger Hauer was in this also. But Rutger Hauer you knew something was up when he tells Bruce, "I'm sorry, I know you're back and everything, but we're making the company public. How do you feel about that?" And he's like, "That's cool, but I just want a job." And he's like, "Oh, he's not going to bother me." Cool. All right. Yeah. You know that Bruce has something in his sleeve, and RIP to the great Rutger Hauer, by the way. But Bruce has something in his sleeve, and at the very end when he puts Lucius Fox in there and he's like, "Yeah, went public." He said, "What are you talking about? Went public?" He's like, "Yeah, I bought a majority of the shares. So peace out, mother app." And
that's the funniest thing in the world.
There's so many great callback lines, like it's very complicated. You didn't get the memo.
So it was great, and I love Lucius Fox, and I love even when he says, like, the way I look at it, man, this is all yours. Do whatever you want to do with it. I don't care. I'm not gonna. He's like,
just don't consider me a fool. There's so much good dialogue.
Yes, he's like, come on,
spelunking.
Yes, yeah. and Bruce is like, all right, you're in on it. That's cool. And I thought that the stuff that they used with the way they used Scarecrow and the toxins and the way that they played that at the end, even though it's hilarious when he gets shot in the face because
he's a dude. Like, I love that Scarecrow has this great arc building up to like that scary, the flames coming out and the like maggots and all that stuff. But he's still a dude, so he gets tased and squeals running away. Like, it's amazing.
It's hilarious when he's like, it's just like, ah.
I also think that's a strength of this trilogy is that Scarecrow's in all three of them, and he has a chance to have this arc, whereas Marvel kills their villains too quickly. I like that Scarecrow is this constant, like, underpinning force. I also like that, like, Cillian Murphy was one of the top 4 choices for Bruce Wayne. Wow. And then Christian Bale got it because he's got a foot on him and the build, but he's way more Batman. But Chris Nolan was so impressed with Cillian Murphy, he gave him the Scarecrow part. Like,
I love that he did. There were a few guarantees in general when you knew that this was coming. You knew that you said, okay, well, when you see the trailer, whether you see that romantic comedy trailer or not, you guarantee that you're going to get a darker Batman. You guarantee that you're going to get really good performances. And there's a lot of guarantees in life. There's a guarantee that the Cowboys are not in the Super Bowl. And there's also DraftKings, ladies and gentlemen, the big game. It is here. The big game is here. It is the moment we've been waiting for since September. It is finally here. Winston is going to be a little upset because he is not going to be able to root for the Cowboys because, as I said, it's a guarantee they are not here. In honor of the big game, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. You bet $5 and you get $280 in free bets if your team wins. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet for almost a third of the country. If Sportsbook isn't in your state, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. New customers get a free shot at a $1 million top prize in their first deposit. Here's how you do it. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code BIGTHING. Get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That is promo code BIGTHING at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, 21 and older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NY. 467-369. All right, let's get back to it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to it. All right, here we go. How's it going, Winston? You all right?
I'm chilling. I'm just looking over here. There's a bin of. Did you guys ever mess with the Disney Infinity or whatever it was?
What's that? No. Oh, back. What is that? Before the.
It was like a video game thing where they had the little figurines and all that.
Yes. I do remember that. Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of them that I got from when I covered Civil War that I never opened, and I don't know. I was trying to see if once you start talking trash about the Cowboys, I tuned out and was like, let me see if I can make any money off of the. Well, if I can make money off them, I don't need them.
That's nice. What was something else I was going to say about shoot, I had it, I forgot what it was.
Darkness trailer. I was going to talk about the bat suit because I think this bat suit, even though he can't turn his head, might be better than the Dark Knight bat suit. To talk about like comparisons, I like the look of this suit a lot.
I do too, and I wonder because everyone you talk to, whether it was Val Kilmer, Keaton, Clooney all said that suit that they had was they couldn't even move in it. Right? They couldn't. I wonder how Bale felt about it.
Well, that was a big thing for the second one is he wanted to come back. He loved doing it, but he really wanted Batman to feel like he could fight and move. And you could tell in some of the fights he's throwing he's throwing haymakers because his elbows don't bend. Like he's doing fight things in the suit. Whereas I do think that Pattinson's suit might be the best of all worlds. Versatility, mobility, brutality. It looks like, a marksman suit. It looks like it can protect you. But I do feel like this is a great step from Kilmer and Bat Nipples to where we land now. Like I think this I like this bat suit a little bit more than Knight, to be honest.
Can I have my one gripe about this film that I think gets me is stealth mode on the Batmobile, which literally he just turned his lights off for a second, and they go, huh? Where did he go? He doesn't have lights anymore. And then he goes, there he is. And then the lights turn back on and he takes off.
But that's the same. That's the same as like, as I was saying before with you got to let certain things go, right? But if that scene in general, that scene is awesome.
That chase scene is amazing. Other than the lights off scene. Yeah, but like it's an intense chase 15 years later.
And
can you at
underrated,
least
by the way,
describe it?
Yeah, that guy though that he's talking to, the underrated is that guy, whoever he is, whether he's just an actor or a friend of Nolan or whoever it was great. And he's like, who is this guy, right? Because first of all, that tells you though when he says that, there's so much meaning in that. It's like, how does this guy? Basically, what the guy's thinking is, how does he have this tank? This is like not just some random weirdo like taking out Bill. This is like a professional dude who is like, well, who is he, right? And then he's just like. He's not on a highway. He's jumping around on roofs. And that guy was great. He basically painted such a picture of the first time that everybody's starting to get acquainted with what Batman is doing and how he's just it's a whole. And Gordon says it at the end. He goes, "You really started something, man. Like this is a very different Gotham that you have created within seconds."
I love in movies when it is done so subtly that the thoughts in our brains someone is narrating, because that's what the scene feels like. Bro, he just jumped on the roof. You know what I'm saying? Like you have that moment and there's someone in the movie like, what the just 100%, going on.
100%.
And that grounds it again because you've got an eye line into your experience. Like this movie does a really good job making it at an 11. Like it's almost our reality. Like Gotham itself, I love that on the literal surface is Chicago and other real cities, but then you go under into the Narrows. You literally go underneath the city, and there's the scum and villainy of Gotham. And I think it's really, really balanced with how you perceive Gotham from the outside. I love that Wayne Tower's in the center because that's something a city would do. It allows for all the plot and elements. Like it allows for that very James Bond weaponized thing that's going to destroy everything. There's so much of Nolan's love for Bond in this, but it works in our world enough that it feels like Gotham's real.
It does. And Tom Wilkinson, by the way, another British actor, plays a great Falcone, and has the accent down was like it's not supposed to be New York because it's Gotham, right? But it's got this, but it has like this East Coast feel to it, and you buy it. And I love that scene when they flash back and they show right before Bruce hauls ass out of town, that meeting he has with Falcone, and Falcone basically tells him he calls his dad a punk, more or less, right? And then what can Bruce do? He can't do anything. He's got to figure a way out. And instead of doing that scene when his dad's what's the killer's name?
Joe Chill, the killer.
Chill. So Joe Chill, when Joe Chill kills, and is that who kills him in the comic books too?
Yes, not the Joker.
Yeah,
yes,
which
drove me crazy.
Which I like better. This is better because I understand why Burton did it, and I get it. But this. It's that whole thing of like, because he wants revenge, and the revenge is taken away from him from the corruption that he wants to fight against. The corruption kills Joe Chill because it's talking, and that whole.
And I love that they made it a mob hit. Like in real life, there's like those times where someone in the crowd runs up and they owe someone money and they kill the guy for like. That was also, it made Gotham way more believable, and it allowed the whole Batman myth to feel attainable.
Yeah, and I love the horror scene when he first kind of shows up to Falcone and all them, when he's and they got that, where are you? And who are you? I'm Batman. And the
plucking out guys on the wharf is so good.
Dude, that very first one, where are you? Here. Huh? Like whole,
and speaking of horror, like the scarecrow imagery, like I don't know how many hallucinations you guys do, but they captured the fear of like how when reality kind of warbles around you and like there's that intense anxiety. it's really hard to make a visual out of something that has an emotion that's strongly connected to it. And that felt like fear on camera.
It did, and they also do that very well when he first inhabits that the toxins when he's training with Ra's al Ghul.
And the flower.
And the flower, and he's got it like the way that they zoom in on the box and the training in the beginning, which I don't want to leave out at all because that stuff is just incredible. The stuff that he's doing when he's learning, and Descartes, quote unquote, is training him, and he realized, and the way that it's all set up. Ken Watanabe, because it's Ken Watanabe, you believe it's Ra's al Ghul. From the way
there's two great bait and switches there, because Descartes is a really cool character in the comic books that does train Bruce Wayne. So all comic fans are like, that's the guy. And it would make, like, Liam Neeson would be a great Descartes. And then you've got the bait and switch of Ken Watanabe, who would be a great comic book Ra's al Ghul. So when you have those two get flopped and like that, it was just such good writing. There's like 10 movies in this movie.
It was great. And I think Jonathan Nolan wrote it, I believe so. I'm not sure. And the music, by the way, Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard, so good. And even though I love, and I said it in a few episodes, that I do like when a hero has consistent music, and I always love the Danny Elfman theme, but that's not how it works. So when you have a new franchise and you have to have a new, like, the music, the way that it's set up and the way that you can just hear it, and I rewound it and geeked out about 3 times when watching it, when the commissioner at the time is just like, we don't have anybody else to send, and then and he comes flying across with the Batmobile, and you're like, oh, it is such a fantastic scene, and all of it. And I remember thinking when I first saw it, I'm like, I don't know how the whole water angle plays out, if it ties in. And then after watching it this time, it actually really works. The idea of taking those toxins, putting them in the water, and the cops like, it's not gonna do anything, you got to inhale it. And they're like, well, they stole this thing because they want to break down, and it's an overall plan.
It's what I love most about really all of these films, but especially this one, is Batman always, it's never what is on the surface. It's never just, oh, Falcone, the mob boss, is behind stuff. It's like, well, oh, the killer was actually tied to that, and he's actually working with this doctor over here who happens to be Scarecrow, who is actually working for Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows, and that there's always pull the thread,
and it grows through these 3 films, because Scarecrow and Bane in the 3rd film, there's a great payoff for all this setup, because there's like an organization always behind it.
Exactly. And so that's why, even when you realize at first you're like, they stole a microwave, why are we watching this?
Right.
But something clicks in your brain where you're like, well, the water has to, oh my God.
And because this one's so grounded, they let the build of more and more theatrical. Like, the end of this film is literally about escalation, and the Dark Knight films escalate. Dark Knight Rises, there's actually an alternate couple scenes in Dark Knight Rises where they shot Scarecrow like the animated series, with the stuff coming out of his hands and the full mask. Like, they shot Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. I'm bummed they cut it because that suit looked awesome. But they also had at the very end, like, the Arkham, the escaped inmates of Arkham, and they had like all the Batman robes rise up when Nightwing. Yeah, what's up?
Because I remember a big trial. I remember here, because the deleted scenes are on YouTube, aren't they? But we'll get to the 3rd movie. We'll get to
but it's cool that escalation allowed for this to feel like grounded here and then go to that level.
Well, I even like the idea how it all ties in, and as you were mentioning, Winston, with how everybody is kind of connected ultimately to Ra's al Ghul, and it's because you have Falcone, who you think is in charge, and then he's ultimately working for Scarecrow, who's ultimately working for Ra's al Ghul, and Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow's his intentions. He thinks that the intentions are very differently from what they are, and it's whether it's because he is a criminal, it was extortion, and where I always say more or less like Thanos is Ra's al Ghul, where they have this mission, they've been doing it for centuries, they want to take out Gotham, and then they just have these different ideals. It's I don't know, man. This is a real. I've always enjoyed this movie a lot, but that's why I love these rewatches, just because I thought it was fantastic. And something similar that I noticed that I liked in this one that we haven't seen so far in any of the Batmans that we watched was when he's starting out, before he gets that suit from Morgan Freeman, he's doing the same thing Spider-Man did. He's running around with just a ski mask on.
Ski mask and that suit, the spelunking suit from. Yeah. I like that we don't have Bruce Wayne going like, I'm doing this by myself. Alfred's here to give me cake. You've got Alfred being a father figure and running everything and actually being he's like the second man. And then you've also got Morgan Freeman.
Well, you even have the nod to the fact that there are multiple times where we always think of Batman being like invincible, even though he's like a dude.
Right.
But there are
Yeah.
multiple times where Bruce gets in over his head, and he is calling for Alfred.
Oh yeah.
And you get this moment where he gets the first thing of fear toxin. He is out of his mind, and he's able to get just enough away.
Dude, Michael Caine's face in that scene, like that protecting paternal fear.
Oh, yeah,
like
great.
Jesus, he's so good.
Oh, Michael Caine. You said Michael Keaton. I was like, wait, what? Like,
The scene in the car in Spider-Man Homecoming with Michael Keaton.
But when you're talking about Coy, when Bale's in the back of the car,
and he's Batman, but he's Bale, and like there's so much duality.
It's he turns back into that little boy when he's on there. He's like, Alfred, help me, right? And he's just because that's all he's had in his life. And you mentioned that humor earlier and how that humor works really well. A line that works really good. There's two lines. It's like one, he cracks the guy in the back of the head with the golf club, and he goes, "I hope you're not part of the fire
brigade."
And then he goes, "You do all these push-ups and you can't move this thing? Come on."
Yep.
And I love that. It shows the character, it shows him, it shows the kind of camaraderie that they have. And what it also does, what we haven't really talked about too much, is that you mentioned how Gotham is a character in this movie, but Wayne Manor is also a character in this movie from start to finish. And
the rebuilding the cave.
But it's Bruce though having this from when they show that scene when he says he wants to tear it down. Right.
Yeah.
And then the juxtaposition towards the end where he's like, I want to build it back brick by brick, because he's now come full circle because of, and also the tutoring from Alfred. And Alfred's like, look, man, basically telling him, you can do your thing. You can do your thing, run around, put on the suits, but you got to keep up the facade, homie. You got to be able to do, and you might have fun doing it, but go and do it. And then he's like, go to your party. There are people out there. And then I don't know if I don't think they ever address it when he tells all of them basically what he's really thinking of them all, and they all leave to protect them. I guess they all forgive him because he's a billionaire, but he really.
Oh no, there's that newspaper that says like, how
drunken billionaire burns down.
I know, but the next movie though, he's hanging. The next movie he's hanging.
But it's exactly that, dude. It's like he gets. It's one of those things where A, he's a billionaire, and B, since he's always kind of put on that facade ever since his parents died, a lot of people are kind of like, well, poor Bruce. I mean, he's
we let Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk destroy the actual planet, and they have friends.
Well, he did lose his parents at a young age, and he does pay for our entire, cotillion club. So I guess we're just gonna have to deal with it.
Probably what it is. I mean, yeah, he at that point, but he puts on the facade. When he walks in and he's like, I'm buying this hotel. He jumps in the pool.
That Bruce Wayne comedy.
It's great.
Hey, sir, it's not about money. Well, I just bought this hotel. So
I don't know why people don't think he's a good Bruce Wayne, because you need to not just be Bruce Wayne when you're with Alfred and be the true self that's evolved through the training. You also need to be public Bruce Wayne, and both of those have to be different from Batman, especially with Katie Holmes saying the exposition out loud of like, this is the mask.
Yeah, that's what I love.
We need two Bruces so that works. And I feel like Christian Bale's incredible.
I do too, and I think that, and Rachel, I think that for the other, like Nicole Kidman didn't. I don't think she does. Does she find out that he's Batman? I don't think so. Right?
Everyone, but Ellie McPherson.
Oh, so Kidman does know.
At the very end, remember, because one, you have him tell her right as Two-Face and Riddler kidnap her, but then at the end he's like, "Do you save the love of Bruce Wayne's life or Batman's sidekick?"
Why in the world would he tell her?
I wish I knew.
Fine. But so she knows. All right, Nicole Kidman knows. Right, never mind. I'm thinking McPherson. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Not Clooney. So everybody knows, but the difference is I don't think any of them needed to know. Right? Maybe Vicky Vale. Okay, Vicky. I don't know. Michelle Pfeiffer, I guess, because of the. But I don't know. I just think this one to me made the most sense because of the way that they set up in the beginning of the movie, the relationship as children, the things that they had, and the idea. Even if she tells him, she goes, "This is who you are," and they're running around. There's the people that you're showing that you're scaring the piss out of. That's who you are right now. But the dude I fell in love with is gone, and that's cool. Maybe I'll come back. We'll see. And that ultimately sets up what happens in The Dark Knight. So I thought they're setting it up.
And the arrowhead, man. Like, what do you get a billionaire? Like, I love that she cared for him that whole time. I love like there's so much world building quickly. That's how this movie can be 10 movies.
Well, that's why I do think, and I understand Nolan's gripe, and I'm glad that he had a gripe that Katie Holmes didn't come back, because even though I don't think she's the strongest actress in the film, I would have preferred. Omar Epps is I love Omar Epps, but I was bummed when he was playing Willie Mays Hayes in Major League 2, even though Major League 2 stinks. But anytime an actor gets replaced after the first movie, no matter how great they are, it's hard because you've already established that character, and you have to then establish them again as a new actor.
Because Don Cheadle and Terrence Howard couldn't be more different. So that's one it's tricky because I think of Rhodey as Don Cheadle. So now when I go back and watch the other way, Terrence Howard is like, because we've had like 10 Rhodies.
That's the thing. That's
10 Rhodies, Don Cheadle Rhodies. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the difference is that but in Iron Man 2, you gotta separate right away. And it's Iron Man 2. If there was only two Iron Man movies or even 3, you're like, oh, it's a little jarring. But because he's been in the movies like 10 of them or whatever it was.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Don Cheadle to me is Rhodey, and
I don't even think of Ed Norton when I look at the MCU, even though that movie's canon because of the supporting characters.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. So, but it's always jarring, and there's always different circumstances as of why. But and all of those circumstances all got really great actors to carry over the role. But either way, so much greatness in this movie. It really is, and I still put The Dark Knight as one of my favorite comic movies of all time. I haven't watched it in probably a few years, so I'm looking forward to watching it again. I do like the setup. How much do you guys think, and you might know the answer to this question, they knew the plan of what they wanted to do for that second movie when they planted that card at the end with the commish?
To my knowledge, I think I don't remember specifically what it was. It may have been Ledger's death, but I thought they had wrapped. I think everything was where they wanted it, with the exception of having to hastily bring in Two-Face and kill him. I don't think that correct me if I'm wrong, Coy, that wasn't the game plan to immediately have him go full Two-Face. It was just supposed to be the setup, and then that was supposed to be more the third movie, but for some reason it happened in the second. Am I wrong about that?
No, because there's scenes with Joker and Two-Face in the second.
Like, no. I know that, but I thought it was supposed to be like we're teeing it up for then Harvey to be a major player in. Of course, it covers me of all things. But I thought I remember reading somewhere that they were teeing up Harvey to become Two-Face by the end of the movie, and then he becomes like that major element in the third one. But they did.
There was talk of they were going to have Heath's Joker in the third film as a different element altogether.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, the entire structure of Dark Knight remained, because Heath actually got to see that opening IMAX sequence. They were finished with the filming. Like the movie was done and shaped as is because they had wrapped. Okay. And I'm really looking forward to talking about, because Heath's the reason I got into the entertainment industry. So like there's so much stuff in that got bad press. Like Heath actually didn't OD. He had prescriptions from 2 different countries that they didn't mesh, and he just drowned in his own fluids in his sleep because he had pneumonia from filming Parnassus. So there's so many awful things that got carried away because the Joker was the role he was playing, and that character is so problematic because of its fandom. So like that movie had so many rumors about it that weren't true just because it's a Joker movie. So people were like making up myths. But to my knowledge, Joker was supposed to be in the third. Things were supposed to accelerate. Obviously, the line about us doing this back and forth forever was an implication of where it was going. I think the big reason that Bane got brought in was because they wanted a mental, psychological equal since they had lost the Joker. Right. But obviously, they couldn't do any of the storylines they were going to do. And I also love that Nolan respects and loves Heath enough not to try anything like someone in Arkham or something that would have hurt.
Right. No, I thought the way that they set it up, and then like we mentioned earlier, where the other Batman movies from Keaton, the first Keaton, second Keaton, all of them focused on the villains. It's okay for me. I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, obviously it's regarded as one of the best movies of all time, but like Batman Begins focuses on Bruce, so that way when you get to Dark Knight, it's okay to focus on the Joker as much because now we have that. We know the origin of Batman, and it was set up very well. So now we're going to see his equal and how his equal kind of plays in.
I would make the argument that the first movie, and this is where when people are like, oh, it's the Dark Knight such a Joker, because I didn't realize that a number of people actually don't like the Dark Knight, as like people put it as their third film out of the 3, which I'm kind of shocked.
Who is that?
If you go on Twitter, I just happen to say, in my opinion, I think
there you go. That's your first mistake.
No. But
people on Twitter are real.
But like even Mike Kalinowski was like, he prefers the Begins and
Exhibit A. Exhibit A. He's the reason for this.
He had said he prefers Begins and Rises over The Dark Knight. And so, but if you think about it, the first movie is about Bruce / Batman. The second movie is about the Joker. And then the third movie, honestly, is about Gotham. If we're being real, it's really about Gotham and Bane just fully exposing Gotham to what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what you said though.
Yeah.
Well, the first movie is about Bruce to establish it. The second movie is about the push. The third movie is about Gotham.
Yeah, well,
I would say Joker is the element that causes the push, but it's not even like Joker is the chaos element, and he's only in the movie for like 28. Like the runtime is actually very small compared to the screen. Like he has so much presence, you feel like it's more than Bruce, but he's actually in the movie a lot less than Bruce Batman.
Interesting. So it's Winston texted us yesterday when we were getting excited. It was so funny because you can always tell, which we should start
when it's good.
We should always start sharing our texts right before when somebody's watching, even when it's bad, like these little things that are happening as we're all rewatching it. And then it was just like, imagine like the best trip you could go to Vegas where everybody won. That's basically what our text exchange was yesterday about this movie. And Winston
We've
said,
been through so much together.
So much. And Winston said it. Winston was like, this is just one of the greatest trilogies. It's like no one really puts it up there. It's a really good trilogy. And without this one setting up, because right away the way that this is set up. And remember, we've also talked about it. The budget. Let's see what the budget was on this movie, because we've been talking about budgets on movies and Box Office Mojo. And I'm gonna see. I think it's probably, what did we say? It was like 130 million or something for this movie.
It was something reasonable compared to the current world.
Well,
Mission Impossible 7 is $300 million.
Yeah. All right. So Batman Begins. The budget for this movie. So I got, let's see. It was 150 million. So, and how much do you think this movie made opening weekend?
Opening weekend, 75.
Winston?
Opening weekend, maybe only 50.
Good call. 48 million. It made 48 million. It made 373 worldwide, right? So that's an amazing amount of money to when you have a $48 million opening. Shows you how different the business was back then, because it means that what it seems like happened on that opening weekend was people like, no thanks for Batman because of Batman and Robin, right? And then what happened for those people, for the people who spent that 48 million, like, no, dude, go see that movie. This is a different Batman.
Repeat viewing, word of mouth. It's spreading like wildfire. Not dumping movies onto streaming right away. This was 2005. They didn't waste movies on streaming. Like HBO Max wasn't ruining the culture.
Oh, stop!
It's a crime.
No, it is
stealing
not.
from my filmmakers.
You don't have children.
I don't have children.
You don't have
I
children.
made a choice to enjoy my life in cinema.
100%. Winston just left.
Yeah, y'all can go ahead and have this. I ain't getting involved. I am not involved.
But I'm telling you, man, it's like I don't want. I mean, the 30-45 day window. We'll talk about it another time. But either way, this movie made $373 million worldwide. So, and remember that 150, and even if it was 250 for marketing, and it's still almost $200 million profit, if you will, right? So don't forget that the difference, though, the reason why the costs, a lot of times these costs come from the big actors and stuff. Bale did not cost that much money back then.
Yeah, this was post-American Psycho. This was I mean, and that's an indie. Like, American Psycho was a tiny budgeted indie. I'm also really, like, they auditioned a ton of actors, and I feel like Christian Bale is the reason why this Batman exceeded expectations. Like, it would have been good with that entire supporting cast, but Christian Bale is really Batman.
Remember, man, he was floating around as Superman at one point. He was floating around for a lot. He was in that Warner Brothers system. They wanted to put him in a big franchise for a very long time. And then
I was just thinking, dude, because like it's not just that. The last thing of note that I'm looking at, I guess maybe Equilibrium, but honestly, was Shaft 2000, bro.
Telling you,
like
man,
so like 6 years.
Now, I wonder, because they did deals differently back then, so they probably were hesitant from signing him on for a second one. So I bet you whether he signed on for the sequel or not, I wonder how much they paid him for the second one. But so the funny, and we'll get more into the box office of Dark Knight next week. But what's funny is that if it cost 185 to make, which is only what, $35 million more. But how much do you think this movie, The Dark Knight, made internationally or worldwide?
I think it cleared $1 billion.
It cleared Billy. It's like 1.5,
right.
I think.
And
so that's one of the best profits of all time.
Yeah.
Right. But the reason why that's so relevant to Batman Begins is because it shows you the quality of what they produced with this film, with the fact that because of the word of mouth, because of the repeat viewings, because of, oh no, this is the Batman we've been waiting for. I remember I saw it at like a screening. I was working. I wasn't doing schmoes yet, but I was working at Warner Brothers, and somebody said, "Hey, do you want to see the new Batman?" It's like a week before it came out, right? And I'm like, yeah, all right. I remember thinking, yeah, all right, sure. And I remember I liked Bale, and I liked and I remember and I was like, they knew that Nolan was doing it. I love Memento. So I'm like, I'm curious, but I wasn't like, I remember hearing that music of Zimmer and Howard and watching the Batmobile going on the roof. And I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like this is kind of the Batman I've always like thought of.
This I would say, and Spider-Man, the first one back then were, and X-Men, those three. Yeah. Because I didn't catch Blade in theaters. I caught Blade on VHS, so I missed the Blade theatrical window because I was like 12 and it was R-rated.
Yeah.
But this was one of those times that I was like, oh, the thing I love, other people love in a very public setting. Like hearing people cheer in the Batmobile scene, I was like, wait, I might be able to talk about comics. And now, 15 years later, it's my job. But it's so cool to not a lot of careers have moments that you remember forever, as this is going to change things, and yes. Batman Begins is going to change things.
Well, Winston, Nolan made comic book movies. Well, I don't want to say cool because X-Men made them cool. There's a lot of other times, but he made it like
real.
He changed it. He did change the face of it and the way that people talked about it, and that you can, I think, within the studio system for sure, that you don't have to put Jim Carrey in a question mark outfit and have him like dancing around and goofing around in order to make a successful comedy movie. You don't have to rely on the star. You can take the gritty stuff and you can make comic book movies serious, and you can take those moments that why comic book fans in the first place really invested, because there's this wrong perception of comic books that it's like, oh, well, it's just pictures and things. So if you're 30 years old, 40 years old reading comic books, then you haven't grown up yet. And this was that no, there's so much stuff inside of comic books that you guys aren't understanding.
It's what it feels like happened is it feels like Nolan went and looked at a couple of things specifically, and one of them ironically is the Batman the Animated Series. Whether he was looking at the Mask of the Phantasm or he was looking at some of the early like season 1 or season 2 episodes before it went it kind of had more of a kid camp feel as it went on, but some of those very first episodes of Batman the Animated Series is like gritty and real. And I think he saw that styling and he was like, I want to figure out how could this happen in the real world? And that became his focus the entire time. I mean, hell, the fact that he even focused on the philanthropy part of Thomas Wayne, which is a big deal, on the train, and then made the train a central element of the film. Yes. He found these through lines that made this such a human, realistic story.
You got to give props to Jonathan Nolan.
And critics dug it. Like that was the thing. Yeah. It's like, this is an Ebert and Roper 2 thumbs up. People back then were like, oh, what did Siskel and Ebert think? What did Ebert and Roper think? That was like a part of it. To get those people who hated comic book movies onto its side was a huge asset.
Right. So great point to make here, Coy. So what do we guess the Batman and Robin tomato meter was?
42.
Oh, 20s.
This is for critics, not for audience, but for critics. You say 40s. Try 12.
Whoa!
Wow.
12. Okay, so now we go Batman Begins, and what do we think Batman Begins?
91.
80s.
So Coy says 91. Winston,
I'll give you 85.
Winston's on fire today. 84%. Audience score for Batman.
Box office and RT scores, Winston.
Hey man, favorite trilogy of all time.
Maybe I don't want to play in the SCHMOEDOWN.
And you shouldn't, but this is the number. This is the number for audience that is really important, and the reason why that 48 million turned into like 300 or 400 million, whatever it was. 94% from audience.
Wow.
94%.
Wow.
And that's 250.
Where's the Dark Knight?
Batman, I'll tell you in a second. So Batman Begins, those reviews at 84%, 287 reviews. Okay.
Wow.
The audience score, 250,000 ratings. So if that tells you anything. Now, as far as The Dark Knight, what do you think The Dark Knight is?
Critics, it's got to be in the 90s. I would say maybe a 93.
I'm gonna go a little higher, 96.
Winston again, 94%. And
let's go.
And audience score, though, the exact same at 94.
Wow, that's rare.
It made so much money. It made so much money, and you got an Oscar out of it. There was no way that it wasn't. Oh my god! Oh my god!
I love the full body jiggle. Like I want to be that happy. That is.
It's like it's and what he's doing now when I take him on walks. So for those audio listeners, we got the dude in here, and he, oh, you stop, you pig, and he when he walks now, he sees people, and he doesn't have a mean bone in his body, but what he does is he screams. He'll be walking down the block.
He's making a face when you do it.
Dude, he's just there's no bones.
Bro, he's a chunk now. Look at him.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Oh, that's great.
It's very photogenic too. I gotta tell you.
He is. He looks good in camera.
Dude, I love little pugs and puggles and stuff like that. I just know that they have such breathing issues just because of their like. Does he sound like he's always doing sleep apnea when he's wide awake?
He's like, okay right now. I mean, he's okay right now because he's only like 7 or 8 months, but they do get that way, for sure.
Yeah.
I also you got to think of the timing of this movie. This was 2005, so this was X-Men: The Last Stand. This was Spider-Man 3. Things weren't going great.
Spider-Man 3 was 2007.
But sorry, in this range, so post Spider-Man 2, pre Spider-Man 3, but comic book movies weren't regarded.
No. It was like the champ, right? It started to switch it up. I mean, even Spider-Man 2, which I know we've had our debates about it. It's got a lot of camp in it. You can't really deny that. There's some great moments in it, but this movie is it's a different. It showed you, and that's exactly why The Dark Knight got to it. It showed you that if movies are done this way, you could start talking Academy Awards.
That's interesting because Begins 2005, 2006, I think Last Stand, 2007 Spider-Man 3, 2008 Dark Knight. So this is Marvel's drowning while DC's thriving.
Yeah, the MCU doesn't. Well, it starts. The MCU
starts in 2008 because of this movie. I argue. Right. I think Begins is the reason we got Iron Man
comes out first, doesn't it?
Iron Man drops before it comes out in May of 2008, and people are like, "Whoa, all right." And then the funny thing is, we still revere Iron Man and we give it its props, but nobody, if you think of it in terms of 2008, nobody gives a shit because of what The Dark Knight does.
It still was the champion of the. That's the movie that had all the hype behind it. It just happened that it's an iconic year for the MCU because of it dropping, but yeah, it was The Dark Knight for so many different reasons. But
it was and Hulk was that year too.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
both
and then
the
Hulk
same
quietly came out 3 months later,
and one day we'll talk about that too, because that's if the Hulk drops at a different time. And it wasn't one of the first ones out the gate. It does much better than it did. I happen to really love that movie.
I'm a big fan of Norton Hulk. And the Norton Hulk sequel script is some of the stuff they talked about. Those ideas are some of the best I've heard from Hulk.
I think that's why they're also shy about doing another one. That's why they'll probably cover more of that in She-Hulk. But that's a different show.
MCU rewatch. Let's do it. 34 properties.
Oh my God. You guys will be getting paid for a long time. I'll tell you that. And that's smart. I like what you're doing there.
I was right there. Just the guys want to do 2 a week. Let's do 2 a week. Let's dance.
Let's do a week. We'd be able to do like 4 a week for like 5 years. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Batman Begins. It was really, really good. And why didn't we start with this one?
I wish I knew.
Yeah, fair enough. So we do remember, for those people who are wondering, yes, Mask of Phantasm. You know what? Actually, this is not a bad idea. Maybe
after the Batman
for March. Why don't we do, because we don't, so February, we just put out the Thing exclusive for Patreon. I've never seen Mask of Phantasm. So, yeah,
dude.
I know. So
you're going to love it.
Why don't we do that for the March rewatch, and the three of us can do that for Patreon?
It's incredible. I'm happy
it's
to.
All right, very good.
That's what we'll do. So that, because people have been asking for us to do that, because we can't cover everything, because the Batman is coming up really, really soon. We will be doing a spoiler spoiler heavy episode on this show, like we did for Spider-Man. So that will happen. The good news, 95% sure that this The Dark Knight we will be doing back in studio. So that's that's the go next. So next week we're hoping to get this back in studio, and we'll start kind of gradually doing big thing episodes in studio from now on. I got Uncharted I'm going to see next week, so we'll have that review up. Don't forget, please check out the Freddie Stroma interview. If you're Peacemaker fan, you should check that out for sure. Show a little class, will you? Subscribe and hit the notification button. Just announce. That's all we're asking for. And don't forget about the Patreon. The link's in the description. And podcasts, everywhere podcasts are, please go and do that. And for Winston A. Marshall, Coy Jandreau, and myself, this is the show.
I wish I knew.
Why you weren't subscribed already. And here we go. Let us get down and dirty to the intro, the outro, whatever this is. Peace out, Mother F's.